Further disclaimer, this video is 7 months old at the time of scripting and Carmen may not stand behind everything. However, I don't care, I'm covering this anyway. So for the context, Your Movie Sucks, or YMS if you're annoying, made a video talking about Kimba the White Lion, while also discussing the controversy between it and The Lion King, which involved The Lion King being accused of plagiarizing Kimba. CarmenRider made a video talking about this video, not covering, just talking. Her reasoning being that she didn't want to cover 2 hours of Your Movie Sucks repeating himself, even though she could have just skipped. Anyway, I don't like Carmen's video, so let's begin.
Sometimes words cannot express my feelings, but screaming can.
Hello again, CarmenRider here, back with another commentary. Now you probably have a couple of questions.
Carmen sorta spends the first minute of this video rambling about nothing. Like, Carmen, I don't think anybody actually cares that you used a meme at the beginning or you're using gameplay footage for your visuals. I think we all just want you to get to the point.
Sometimes words cannot express my feelings, but screaming can.
Now the main point Your Movie Sucks makes is that The Lion King isn't a ripoff of Kimba. To which he is correct. So why do I bring this up, you may ask? It's because Your Movie Sucks doesn't understand the argument that is actually being made. The actual argument being made is the bias towards smaller adaptations / movies and Disney.
I'm very thankful for all the proof that was what the argument was. When Your Movie Sucks shows actual sources calling The Lion King a ripoff of Kimba, in the first 10 seconds of the video as well. Videos that directly compare the two series side by side, and also videos on said controversy.
Now you all know a lot of what Disney makes is adaptation of public domain properties. However, there was a time in the 90s / 80s and so on where people made similar adaptations of works to Disney. But those works were dismissed because the general public considered them Disney ripoffs. Don't get me wrong, there are actual ripoffs of Disney movies, but a lot of them weren't the case. For example, Mock of the Oak Tree, or Saban's Adventures of Pinocchio if you're from the US. Now at first glance you might consider this a ripoff of the Disney movie. However, if you actually watch the show, you'll see that the two are just barely similar outside of source material. But because normies are more familiar with Disney, people would call it a ripoff at face value.
That's so cool and relevant, and I'm really glad you took an aside to say all that, especially since you don't even show one way the two series are different and just expect us to watch the show itself if we want to make sure this is true. Also, even if the two films aren't similar, a case could still be made that it's trying to rip off Disney. Mockbusters are films trying to masquerade as other more popular movies in order to ride along on that success. And mockbusters of Disney stuff absolutely exists. One of the most prominent examples being Good Times Entertainment. The thing is, mockbusters are almost never similar to the films they're ripping off. The Little Panda Fighter being an example, since that film is about a panda wanting to become a dancer and being mistaken for a professional boxer due to long strings of misunderstandings. The movie ends with him turning the boxing club into a dance club. Not at all similar to the story of Don't Judge a Book by its cover from Kung Fu Panda. Now, whether the film you mentioned would be a mockbuster is something that's up for debate. In fact, it's unlikely due to the release date being 30 years after Pinocchio's. Mockbusters tend to be released close to the original film's released. But the point is that you can still be a ripoff without having much in common with the thing you're ripping off. By the way, I'm too stupid to figure this one out on my own, so thanks Bennett the Human for pointing this one out to me.
What everyone's trying to say is if something like Mock is considered a ripoff, then by their logic, The Lion King should also be considered a ripoff.
Except that nobody actually says that in any of Your Movie Sucks' sources, even if this was a popular argument, unless you can show that any of these articles or videos used actually said this, then your argument fails on 2 levels. One, because Your Movie Sucks would be arguing these claims, and another, because given some sources have written books, and given the large number of videos and articles on this subject that Your Movie Sucks uses, this would still be a very prominent argument.
Okay,
Why? Why does this always happen? What did I do to deserve this?
You stole from the cookie jar. I saw you, Carmen. What the fuck are you doing?
Shit. Nothing.
Ah, I see.
Bye then.
The shit, where'd all the cookies go?
Stuff it. To have sex.
Okay, so, one of the things that Your Movie Sucks mentions a couple of times is how the show contains blackface.
I even went through the manga, which supposedly this film is based on the second half of, and yeah, it's not there either. It was mostly just blackface. Now you're probably wondering why it took so long for this show to get an English dub, and it's probably the same reason why the original manga never got an English release. Blackface. Lots and lots of blackface.
So you can show clips to give context. Man, wish you could do that consistently.
Claiming the show gives into racist stereotypes. Is this true? I mean, he shows clips from the show and manga to show these alleged racist stereotypes. So did Leo the Lion and Kimba portray blackface? No. Well, sorta. Let me explain. Back in the days before anime was really a thing in Japan, they would usually just import American cartoons and dub them in Japanese. And what was American media known for having back in the day? Blackface. However, since these cartoons were just imported to Japan, and because Japan is a country that doesn't have that many minorities, the people there, when seeing these characters, assume that's just how you draw black people. There wasn't really anyone there who was black who could point out that it was offensive.
I can't be racist because it was bred from ignorance. Carmen, that's like the main cause of racism more often than not. If Tezuka thought that these racist interpretations were how you drew black people, then that still would have been racism bred out of ignorance. Congrats, you threw a pebble at an elephant and expected them to die. It does nothing to Your Movie Sucks point, as this is still an issue with the anime and manga. If I were to call you the T-slur without understanding why it's offensive, while that means I didn't have malicious intent, it would still be a transphobic thing to do, and it still causes harm. Gonna skip the rest of this section because Carmen just goes further in depth on a pointless argument.
Stuff it. To have sex.
But back then, they didn't know. Now I know what you're gonna say. But CarmenRider, what about the voices?
You be out of your mind, boss. How could you expect us to work if we don't eat? The price for meat is too high already, Mr. Boss Man.
Wanda, I'd be sorry the white lion got away.
Just forget it.
Do we stop poaching now, huh, boss, huh?
Well, that brings us to Section 3.
Not sure anyone is gonna argue that when Your Movie Sucks specifies the manga as a place where some of this would be, so you're making an irrelevant point. Again.
This is a story about a boy named Shinji, living in the flooded streets of New Orleans.
Now, this isn't much of an issue when he's reviewing Kimba, but when he gets into the segment relating to Leo the Lion, this is when it becomes a bit of a problem. He treats the dub as if it were the show itself. You may not see the issue with this, but because of the dub being specifically poor, this gives Leo the Lion an unfair disadvantage. Would you criticize the show Prison School for the Gamergate comment in the dub? No, you would criticize the dub. Would you criticize Dragon Maid as a show for that one comment Loka made in the dub? No, you would criticize the dub. So you can't criticize Leo the Lion, the anime, for its poor dub. You criticize the dub.
Cool, that's what he's doing. Already evidenced by the section specifically saying, and its awful dub in the timestamps. But I went further and watched the segment in question, and he specifies that he's criticizing the dub.
And it really did not seem like they gave a shit when it came to the dub.
Let me go, let me go, let me go, let me go, let me go.
I've been afraid. I just want to be friends with you. Christopher Sugi.
YMS is literally doing what you ask of him by specifically saying this about the dub.
With that out of the way, was the dub made with racist intentions towards black people, given the accents? Maybe. There's no surefire way of telling if the dubbers were stereotyping or just doing poor impressions of black people.
There's two solutions to this. Solution one, literally don't voice them any differently from how you'd voice anyone else, and solution two, get actual black people to voice them. It's really not that hard to not use a racist accent. This was made in the 90s. Blackface and racism weren't as prevalent, in the sense that, yeah, there were actually some interpretations of black people that would have been legit to take inspiration from, so they could have easily learned how to voice these characters. TLDR, don't be racist, it's not that hard.
But was Leo the Lion made with racist intentions towards black people? Absolutely not.
Carmen's mind-reading skills are so perfect that she can confirm whether stereotypes was created with intent or by ignorance. I'm not going to sit here and argue it was intentional, because making that claim without either a solid basis or actual proof would be insanely stupid and irresponsible, but you act like it's totally off the table when it's not. Reminder that Leo the Lion still had these designs in them. You know, the visual, still stereotypical designs that you alluded to earlier, and Your Movie Sucks also calls out.
And to be honest, I consider this a good episode because Rick is a pickle.
Now, I would end it here, but there's one more thing that my girlfriend wanted me to talk about.
I mean, you could always just say no. Like, I'm just saying, you don't have to talk about everything you're told to. Especially given how petty what you're about to complain about is.
Dear Mr. Douchebag, we all agree that you are a dumbass, why can't you see that?
Okay, this one is one of the bigger things Your Movie Sucks brings up in the segment about Kimba. It's the episode Too Many Elephants. Your Movie Sucks doesn't do a good job explaining that episode, but I'll play his clip first.
There's an episode where Kimba's human friend Roger, who just lives with them, his uncle shows up and he warns them that the elephants are about to be exterminated because the people are fed up with the elephants, they just want them dead.
They changed the rules. Yes, they're too crowded, so they're going to destroy all bad animals.
So he shows up to warn the elephants, but they just bully him a bunch because all of the elephants in the show are just massive dicks for no reason, except this one baby elephant, I guess, who's just absolutely terrifying.
Hi. Hi, thanks a lot. It's all right. Glad to find at least one elephant who isn't me, like Packer.
So Kimba spies on the park commissioner and confirms his suspicions.
We have tanks plus motor guns and a helicopter. I can assure you that our hunting party will see to it that every single elephant in the park is destroyed.
So Kimba goes back to the elephants and then he just gets bullied some more.
You're mean. I mean it, Packer Dermot. Now I understand why the humans want to exterminate you.
He tries to warn them quite a few times, but they just won't stop bullying him. Eventually he gives up and just decides to warn Pee-wee the baby elephant instead, so he gets him to hide in this part that's apparently closed at night. So then they just start destroying the elephants with fucking tanks and helicopters. So they drive the entire herd into a canyon so they can trap them and detonate explosives and have the canyon collapse in on top of them? What the fuck? They're all dead!
I'm sorry, elephant. I tried to save you.
Who would have thought that Kimba would have an episode about elephant genocide? What exactly is the theme in this episode?
How could all the elephants be nice like Pee-wee? Then it wouldn't have had to be exterminated.
Okay, now let me explain it properly. So the start of the episode has Dr. Pompous driving through the jungle before his car breaks down. Literally. After that, he goes on foot before almost being attacked by two hyenas, Tom and Tab. Seeing this, Kimba fights off the two hyenas, getting them away from Dr. Pompous. Eventually, Dr. Pompous makes it to the cave with all the animals and Roger Ranger. Dr. Pompous remarks that he wants Roger to come back to the city, as he feels like the jungle isn't safe. Dr. Pompous then remarks that the people in the game preserve, a place where animals are kept safe and still watched by humans, are planning to kill some of the animals there. Keep in mind, this location is separate from the jungle. This is something Your Movie Sucks fails to fully acknowledge. This may not seem like a big deal, but by failing to mention this, he indirectly puts the responsibility of the death of the elephants on Kimba's shoulders. But we'll get into that in due time.
To start with your last point, no, he doesn't. He actually said that Kimba tried to warn them several times and they kept bullying him, and he eventually gave up because he wouldn't be able to get through to them, and chose to warn the one elephant he would get through to. He actively mentioned Kimba trying to warn them. Like, sure, he placed some really bad lines from Kimba, but that's more because of bad writing than it actually being Kimba's fault. Second off, you are literally going off on a plot synopsis that's less detailed than your one. Literally, who the fuck actually cares?
When Kimba gets to the preserve, he encounters Packer, leader of the elephants, to which he is shown to almost kill Kimba simply for walking in his path.
So Carmen continues to ramble about this point, pretend that anybody gives a fuck. See why I said that you can always just say no yet? I do appreciate Carmen putting me to sleep by going on and on and on about this point for over 5 minutes. Especially since there's plenty of plot details here that could have easily been trimmed out, making this section shorter, like hyenas chasing an old guy. Totally relevant to the overall synopsis, am I right?
Now, as you can see, there is plenty of context that Your Movie Sucks leaves out that makes Kimba seem incompetent, when in reality, he was one of the ones to give the elephants the benefit of the doubt.
Okay, I'll continue to pretend like those two are mutually exclusive. Like, if I give someone the benefit of the doubt yet still fail to warn them about something, that doesn't stop me being incompetent, even though that's not what Your Movie Sucks was saying. Also, secondly, this additional context doesn't change the overall plot beat of the elephants ignoring Kimba repeatedly. You're basing this off him trying to make Kimba look bad when he isn't doing that.
And to be honest, I consider this a good episode because Rick is a pickle.
So, final thoughts. Damn, this was petty. Like, the arguments you made either don't matter or were dumb, or, let's be honest, both. I think this is a prime example of making a mountain out of a molehill. Please find a better way to cover videos that don't involve nitpicking for 5 goddamn minutes about minor plot stuff. Oh yeah, I forgot. I wanted to do this too. Shut up.